I would classify Pizza Hut as an iconic American brand. In the past, they seemed to be the ideal family restaurant. How many of you watching this, in all honesty, have wonderful memories of eating there with your family? Perhaps you celebrated your birthday there, or perhaps you took part in their book reading program and won one of those colorful pins, or my personal favorite, a personal pan pizza. It would sure take a lot to get that pizza, but it was on another level. I'm sure a lot of us have similar Pizza Hut memories, so seeing them in this state is heartbreaking. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying that they are in any immediate danger of shutting down. Pizza Hut is still doing fairly well, so I believe they'll be around for a long time. However, there is substantial evidence to support my claim that Pizza Hut has seen better days. They declared in 2019 that during the following 2 years, 500 of their 7,500 US locations would close. They justified it that closing and replacing underperforming restaurants was part of their long-term strategy. I'll touch more on it later, but that is a major downsizing for the time being. In fact, Pizza Hut's president and other senior officials have stated that they are dissatisfied with the company's overall performance. When they say that no one out-pizzas the Huts, I don't exactly know what that means, but it might not be true anymore. Anyone who was alive in the 1970s and even into the 1980s would tell you that Pizza Hut was once the national pizza chain. Before there were nationwide pizza chains, there was Pizza Hut. Until at least the 1980s, people had to decide between either going to the local or regional restaurant or to Pizza Hut. Every other well-known chain that exists today was not a factor on a national level. Pizza Hut continued to be the industry leader even as things became more competitive over the next few decades, and some of the smaller chains began to close the gap until 2018. Domino's took over that #1 spot, and over the next few years, they have only extended that lead. After 47 years, the world's #1 pizza chain, Pizza Hut, has fallen to second place, and a distant second at that. People have moved on from them, in my opinion, and their largest franchisor, NPC International, filing for bankruptcy in July 2020 is one proof. They were the ones who operated about 20% of the US Pizza Hut locations. It's true that there were other contributing factors in that instance, but overall, it's not a good indicator of the state of the brand, plus it ultimately resulted in the closure of an additional 300 restaurants. And lastly, how did the logo change? This was their logo for the majority of the 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s when they were at the top. Then, in 1999, it was modified. They slanted everything and added extra colors. However, they returned to their previous logo in 2019, which was 20 years later. According to their chief brand officer at the time, embracing our iconic Pizza Hut logo is recognition of a time period where Pizza Hut unequivocally reigns supreme because that's where the future is headed. This suggests to me that Pizza Hut had a better time in the past, and bringing back the old logo will serve to remind customers of that. At the very least, I trust we can all agree that Pizza Hut has seen better days. They've lost a lot of control of their market, and I will attempt to explain why in this video. The very first Pizza Hut opened in Wichita, Kansas in 1958, and it could not have been more modest in the beginning. It was Frank and Dan Carney, two brothers. They rented up a modest building close to a university and purchased used equipment with a $600 loan from their mother. I found it intriguing that they chose the name Pizza Hut for their first restaurant, mostly because they were given a sign with a limited amount of word space, and of course, they wanted to use the word pizza. So that meant that their second word could only be 3 letters. The brand was created when they finally decided to use the word hut. Had their sign been larger, the course of events might have been very different. They believed in providing excellent service and quality pizza so much that in the beginning, in an effort to draw in customers, they gave free pizzas on the night of their launch. It was an effective promotion. After roughly a year, the restaurant did well enough that they were able to persuade a friend to operate the first franchise location in Topeka, Kansas. I think it is important to mention that earlier on, they used this sort of stereotypical mascot called Pizza Peas as part of their marketing. It was intended, I think, to serve as both an entertaining cartoon for the children and a statement about the authenticity of their Italian food. At the time, pizza wasn't nearly as well known or famous, so attracting customers and creating a welcoming environment worked effectively. By 1971, Pizza Hut had over 1,000 locations, making them the largest pizza restaurant chain in the world. They had adopted the red roof logo, began designing their restaurants in the same way, and kept franchising more and more locations across the United States and even into other countries like Canada and Germany. However, they were acquired by Pepsi 6 years after they had more than doubled to over 2,000 locations. Pepsi was then able to expand them even farther, hitting 5,000 outlets in less than 10 years. Following the purchase, they split it off, along with the rest of the restaurant division, into a publicly traded company after surpassing 7,500 locations. The new company that it was now a part of was initially called Tricon Global Restaurants, but soon renamed it to Yum Brands, which is how they exist today. Currently, it primarily comprises of Taco Bell, KFC, and Pizza Hut, though some have stated that Pizza Hut has been holding them back and ought to be divested. Upon examining the causes of the problems at Pizza Hut, I believe that two primary problems account for the majority of their problems. The first one is a lack of catchy menu items, and I understand that at first this may seem like such a small matter, but allow me to clarify. Today, seemingly every fast food restaurant has a never-ending sequence of new items that are pumpkin-flavored or Cheeto-flavored or whatever. But Pizza Hut was kind of a pioneer in this style. In fact, I would even argue that these invention of catchy menu items formerly played a significant role in the company's success. A couple of examples of what I would consider to be more gimmicky ones would be the Edge, which happens way closer to the edge of the pizza than they should be, or the Big New Yorker. Both introduced in the late 1990s, they kept customers coming back to Pizza Hut and sold pretty well. But then there are other instances of newly introduced menu items that I would classify as truly innovative. Some examples there would be in 1980 when they came out with the pan pizza, or in 1995 when they came out with the stuffed crust pizza famously promoted by Donald Trump. Numerous examples demonstrate how, in the past, Pizza Hut had one of the most creative menus available, which unfortunately is not be the case anymore. You might be shocked to learn that Pizza Hut unveiled a whole new menu at the end of 2014. They called it Flavor of Now and described it as their biggest brand evolution ever. I mean, this was meant to be a huge thing. They made a daring attempt to fully remodel their entire menu in order to make it appear more upscale and fresh. They included new ingredients, sauces, crust flavors, and drizzles. And they changed their logo, boxes, uniforms, and website to match the new menu. This, in my opinion, was an attempt to move their target market from families to millennials in particular. I'm going to go ahead and guess that most of you barely remember this happening, or maybe not at all, because the whole Flavor of Now attempt was pretty much a failure. As we've already seen, it did nothing at all to help their sales. The second part of their troubles, I believe, can be attributed to being slow to delivery. And by this, I don't mean taking over 30 minutes to deliver a pizza order because then it becomes too cold. Rather, they were losing a lot of business because they took so long to consider the idea of delivering pizzas to their customers. This is what I mean. Historically, pizza is like the most common thing to have delivered, right? I mean, now more than ever. But before 21st century, before internet shopping, before any of it, people were ordering pizza delivery. However, Pizza Hut was once famous for their family-friendly sit-down restaurants. In the beginning of this video, when you were thinking back to those memories of birthday parties and personal pan pizzas, which by the way is another Pizza Hut innovation, they took place inside of a Pizza Hut, not at home eating pizza delivered by Pizza Hut. It was like an event, and frankly, it was an outing. It was more than just the food. In reality, it wasn't until 1986 that they began to provide large-scale pizza delivery services, and the only reason they carried it out at that time was because Domino's had found massive success with it. You might even say that Pizza Hut's lack of delivery during those times is a big reason that Domino's was even able to get their foot in the door in the first place. I do have to say that after a late start, they have been aggressive with it. However, I believe that the problem lies in how drastically the public's perspective has changed. With all of these wild marketing campaigns, they've tried to link Pizza Hut to delivery. In 1989, they famously delivered pizza to the White House. In 2001, they delivered it into outer space, and in 2016, they delivered it onto Mount Kilimanjaro. When they closed those 500 locations, the reason for it was to eliminate the dining area and to reopen them as smaller buildings. Their smaller store models, which they refer to as Delco, short for delivery and carryout, are the ones that are expanding the fastest. One of their arguments is that if you see a Pizza Hut as a tiny building every time you see one, your mental image of them will be associated with delivery. To sum up, Pizza Hut has undergone significant change from what it once was. They've been around for long enough to have the world change around them. They've had to adjust because some of the things that once made them popular are no longer relevant. Whereas some of their competitors like Domino's or Little Caesars first grew in that new environment. If that makes any sense, it's kind of like Pizza Hut is the older generation struggling to fit in with the new one. It does appear that some of their attempts to accomplish it are a little slower and possibly misdirected. However, these are just efforts. They know where they need to go, but it appears they just don't know exactly how to get there, which gives me confidence that they will eventually make progress in the right direction. Tell me in the comments section, what are your thoughts on Pizza Hut? Do you even like their pizzas, or do you prefer one of their competitors? How have they changed over the years, and how has your perception of them changed? And what additional opinions do you have regarding Pizza Hut or the pizza industry in general? Leave them in the comments. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Thank you for watching and your support.